Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What in the ever-living hell am I getting myself into? Okay, so because I did one for SpongeBob games, I figured why the hell not? Let's do one for a show that is also famous for being yellow, I suppose. The Simpsons. We're doing a tier list for Simpsons games. Now, before we begin this one, it's important to note that I genuinely like to be entirely honest with these games, or I genuinely like to, I like to fill out this list. I try to think, okay, is this game worth putting in no? Is it worth putting in bad? I try to make that work, but most of these games, I swear to God, I was so tempted to put most of these games in no, because, oh God. So, I am going to try and, even things out a bit on this list, but let me just tell you, this is hard. This was a hard one to decipher, honestly. So, I don't really know. I mean, I feel like I could be doing better things with my time on here, on YouTube, but no, I'm here ranking Simpson games. Before we move on, another thing that I completely forgot to say in my Rugrats tier list video for Rugrats games, I generally like to include the music from the game in question that I'm talking about, but unfortunately, due to availability, that wasn't completely fulfilled in the Rugrats video, so, yeah, if you hear certain music when I'm talking about a game, don't quote it, because it might not, or, not, it's not that's the right term, but basically don't go thinking that's from the game I'm talking about, because it might not be. And I'm willing to bet that's probably going to be the case with this video as well. So, yeah, but with that out of the way, let's start this train wreck. Oh boy, here we go. Starting with, actually, let's, hold on, wait, I almost forgot something else. What the tiers mean. Actually, no, I don't even have to explain that. It's clear to see it. For this video, I think it's necessary that I actually named the tiers. So we have great, good, okay, meh, not good, bad, and no. Yeah, nothing stopping no, apparently. And, once again, I am counting the console games. Basically, every single Simpsons game. Actually, no, that's not true. I'm counting, the primary ports. So a lot of these games, all the early games, had, multiple ports on many different consoles. But I'm only sticking with the primary versions that people know, like the NES or Super Nintendo, stuff like that. I'm not, branching out and doing every port like I did in the Rugrats video, because this is an example where that would take us longer than it needs to be. And these videos tend to drag on for a lot, too. And I am not counting I am counting arcade games, but I'm not counting pinball games, so Pinball Party and The Simpsons, Carnival Crazy, I don't forget what that was called. Not counting any of those. I'm also not counting ticket redemption games like The Simpsons Soccer or The Simpsons Cupcake Challenge, which honestly nobody remembers. I've never even seen that, so yeah. And no Tiger Electronic games either, because trust me, we already have enough shit to deal with here. So with that sloppy intro out of the way, let us start with the Simpsons arcade game. Okay, truth be told, this is not one of the worst ones. This is actually a great one, in fact, a very great one. So, the Simpsons arcade game, truth be told, I don't think the story has ever been officially told, aside from being told by fans, maybe in some of the ports, the PC ports and such, but regardless, burglars have robbed a store, and they've taken Maggie, so you gotta go after them. They really emphasized on Smither being evil in this game. Smithers is, really evil in this game. It's, very odd. This was, if you've seen my SpongeBob tier list, you'll know that this game it entered development, about, a month into the Simpsons run, maybe even, less than that. Yeah, it had a lot of continuities and a lot of color errors. Krusty is heavily deemed as a villain in this game, or the face of evil. And Sideshow Bob is actually a good guy in this game, and it helps the Simpsons. That's Simpsons 101 thrown out the window. I have like theories, but we're not gonna get into those because these videos tend to drag on a lot, and I apologize for that. But yeah, honestly, 4-player action in the arcade. This is a beat 'em up game, and damn, is it addicting! It may be like one of the most like inaccurate licensed games out there, but it's, I cannot deny that the game is just so playable. It's absolutely addicting, and every time I see this in an arcade, about all my money goes to waste. I love this game, honestly. I really do. And, I mean, what hasn't been said about it already? It's the Simpsons arcade. No, I know one thing that needs to be said more. Give us a proper console port of the arcade game. There was, like, a PS3 and Xbox 360 version, but those were, like, limited time things. I don't know. And from what I gather, Disney doesn't have any control over that because Fox and EA, and we'll get to that when we do. But, yeah, bottom line, the Simpsons arcade game is a borderline classic. And if you haven't played it, then I feel sorry for you. I was going to say I don't know you, but honestly, that's just kind of rude, so I'm not going to bother with that. The Simpsons arcade game, or just The Simpsons is actually what it's called. It didn't have an arcade game in the title because stuff. It's generally called The Simpsons, but you get the idea. We call it The Simpsons arcade game because, just to distinguish it, I guess. It's like how the first Ninja Turtles arcade game is called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, rather than just Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But regardless, The Simpsons is going in great, because I remember the first time I beat this too, like that was some blood pumping right there. A lot of characters, characters, they had to make up a lot of new characters for this, because again, The Simpsons was a new property. It wasn't like Ninja Turtles, where Konami had a lot to work with. Yeah, it's Konami, by the way. They had characters to work with in that, but The Simpsons, it was a new series at the time, so they had nothing to work with. They had to kind of take liberties, and I think a handful of the characters, or the bosses, were from the show, and even then, some were just, throwaway characters. But, yeah, bottom line, The Simpsons arcade game is a great game, and if you ever see it in an arcade, I highly recommend playing it. Especially if you have friends. That's definitely where the game shines. But alas, while Konami gave us a great start, this is where we take a turn for the worse. We are now in the territory of Acclaim. So, Acclaim got the rights for Simpsons games, and they decided to go in a very dangerous direction. So let's begin this shit show. First up, we have Bart versus the Space Mutants. Now, this is the problem we're going to be facing with these Acclaim Simpson games. They all focus on Bart. It doesn't focus on the family like the whatchamacallit, the arcade game. They all are Bart centered. In my opinion, it seems like they focused more on making the game about Bart than actually making the game good. This was during the time where Bart was deemed as the big star. Back when it was like, oh, Bart Simpson's the dude, oh no, Homer's up to no good. Basically, when, it was, while we had stuff like Do the Bartman and all that, I think people can agree that, this was honestly the worst that came out of that era. Honestly, I'd deem worse, but honestly, I think most people can agree that the Bart Simpson games, I'm not hiding any secrets here. These are all, I can't even, they're unworldly awful. But where is this one gonna go? I'm judging this by the NES version, because that's the version that a lot of people know. Sure, it was on Genesis and all that, but, I'm basing this on NES. Yeah, so what's the problems here? So the story of this game is that, Bart comes across, space mutants who want to take over Springfield, and they have a doomsday weapon of some sort, of mass destruction, I'm not sure, and it's powered by certain colored objects and certain things, and Bart needs to go on a mission to get rid of those specific things to stop their plan. It's really basic, honestly. That was the problem with a lot of these old NES games, making a quick buck. So, yeah, but, oh god, this, things are really, I'm not too clear here. Controls are very funky, honestly. Not in a good way. And, you have a lot of, the controls are just so odd. Like, yeah, I think, and, slippery, Bart's very slippery. Precise stuff, precise platforming at one point. I didn't make it to that part, though. I was stuck on the first world. You have only 2 hit points. Not 3 or something, no, just 2. That doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I guess it could have been 1. Jesus Christ. But yeah, I don't really have a lot about to say. The thing about these games is that I couldn't get really too far to the point where they almost were like samples. I tried to give each game here a fair shot, but this one is bad, honestly. I would put it in no, but the problem is, though, again, I want to at least try to fill out these sections, so I'm kind of like trying to weigh out, like, okay, what is redeeming? And considering we're this early in the list, I can't really explain that yet. Or maybe I might be able to right now. Here we have the first handheld Simpsons game, Bart Simpson's Escape from Camp Deadly. I don't know why it's Bart Simpson's. I mean, Lisa is prominently featured in the box art and the title screen, so I don't know why. I guess because if it wasn't Bart Simpson, it wasn't going to sell, I guess. So, the story, from what I can gather, is that, again, this is during the time where, despite the fact that Homer was the breakout star of the show, let's be real here, they were still marketing him as an angry, aggressive, evil father, if you will, and he sends Lisa and Bart to military school, and yeah, pretty much that. I'm not gonna get into farther details because Jesus freaking Christ, this game, I don't know what the hell was going on here. It's platforming wise, I mean, I guess it controls fine for the most part. But, like, enemies bleed out of the walls. They move faster than you. Oh, and then, like, things aren't clear. Like, I entered this area that was, like, a bonus level of sorts. And then, like, I thought, like, I had an exit. But no, it killed me and I got a game over. So, that's great. That's great. Like, thank you for that. I appreciate that. This one, took a lot more out of me, honestly. I don't even know if it is possible to beat this one. I couldn't even stomach it, honestly. So, no. I barely have anything to say about these games because they're just like, the bad, like, outweighs everything. So, yeah, honestly. Yeah, just forget Camp Deadly. That is some crap for the ages. Speaking of crap, moving on, we have Bart versus the World. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. In this one, this serves as a sequel to Bart vs. the Space Mutants, and yet, this game he's saving the world, but this one he's against it. Make what you will of that. This one, okay, by the way, in the ad for this one, they said that Bart vs. the Space Mutants was the world's best-selling video game. I didn't make that up. No, like, take a look at this.
We last left Bart Simpson battling deadly space mutants and acclaimed best-selling video game Bart vs. the Space Mutants.
I'm probably off a bit because I haven't seen that in ages, but Jesus Christ. I'm just thinking about it now as the sake of this video. I doubt that was the case. I mean, then again, The Simpsons was really big back then. So, I guess, you know, if people were fooled, I guess that would make sense. Although, then again, I'm fairly certain companies back then said stuff like that, you know, to make a profit. So, it could be entirely false still. But, Bart versus the World. This one is not too different from Bart versus the Space Mutants, except things are a lot more clear in this game. To a point. This game you had to do like a whole bunch of crap. If you miss one thing, you're done for, blah, blah, blah. This one, you gotta focus on one thing, collecting Krusty heads and getting to the end of the levels. I was able to make it past the first world, believe it or not. The story of this game is that Krusty has a little drawing contest, or art contest, and for some reason Bart wins despite drawing a horrible stick figure of Krusty. Even Krusty's confused. He's like, he says it with a question mark. And you know, the reason why Bart won, despite the crude drawing, was because the judge was Mr. Burns, and the trip was the world, or like the prize was a trip around the world for the Simpsons. And Mr. Burns wants the Simpsons dead, so he decides, you know, I'm the judge here. I'm gonna choose Bart as the winner so I can, you know, kill them. So, yeah. I'm not sure if Mr. Burns was that sinister about The Simpsons at the time, but I do know he is a villain, obviously. I mean, he's not a great guy, obviously. But I wouldn't say, like, you know, I'd say Sideshow Bob was probably more of the Simpsons killer. Although, again, like, there's a ton of Simpsons. Have you seen how many Simpsons episodes there are? I mean, like, props to all the people who can memorize all that. I'm not one of them. But Bart vs. the World, it has the same controls. That's kind of the problem here. I got stuck on the second level because of precise platforming. But at least I was able to progress, I suppose. And I guess the structure of the game, or like the how you're supposed to progress, I suppose, is more understandable, much easier to digest. So there's that, but it's still not going too high. I guess it's meh, not good. Probably like really low on that, honestly. I was gonna put it in bad because it has a tile puzzle. Frick those tile puzzles. I was gonna say the F-bomb, but I decided, you know what, I don't feel like censoring today. Sorry if that sounded pathetic to you, but whatever, you get the idea. And then you had like memory games and all that. I already said memory games. It's not good still. Again, I wanted to put this in bad or no, but again, I gotta try and even things out here. It's not easy, okay? If anything, this whole thing is just a big giant no down here, honestly. I would have just had this no 1, no 2, no 3, but you know, gotta make sense, I guess. So, moving on. We have MS-DOS, Bart's House of Weirdness, or Bart Simpson's House of Weirdness. I forgot if his last name was in there. So the story of this game, I didn't even think there was a story when I played it, but after doing some research, apparently the story of this game is that, Krusty has been kidnapped by Sideshow Bob, so Bart goes on a weird mission to save him. And you know what? I couldn't have. I don't blame myself for not knowing that plot, because Krusty is on the box hanging out with the other villains in the game. Like, okay, and it's by Konami, who did the Simpsons arcade game, so I guess that's where it came from. It's like the game developers made their own story, but then like Konami was in charge of hiring a team for the box art, and they're just like, oh yeah, just put Krusty in there with the villains. I'm sure he's bad. Like, yeah, whatever. It's. Somebody explain that to me. What was the leading thing for that? Whatever. Regardless, though, this game is a bit of an adventure sort of thing. Is it good? No. In fact, I'd say it's much worse. Things are not really clear in this game. They're really not, honestly. Even when Konami came back, then again, they were just publishers for this one. It was developed by someone else. Even when Konami came back, they didn't save us. They hopped on the Bart Simpson train, so we are, goes to show that there's no mercy in this world. So, where is this one going? I think in the back of bad. I don't really have much to say about this one, because I could not stomach it. And again, I know some of you could argue that's not, like, you know, I'm not giving these games a fair shot. But, two things. One, these are Bart Simpson games. They're, like, universally hated. Everybody has ripped these to shreds. So, like, I think I can get away with that. And secondly, again, these tier list videos tend to drag on a lot longer than they need to be. But, again, I try to explain my reasonings with these games. And if you guys actually do sit through these videos, I do appreciate that. But if you do some skipping, I guess I don't blame you. Moving on, Acclaim is back. And weirdly enough, they did not give Bart the spotlight here. I guess since they realized that Krusty was kind of being deemed as evil in the Konami games, or at least the box art for Weirdness, House of Weirdness, whatever. I guess they were like, you know what? Let's give Krusty his own game. And that gave us Krusty's Funhouse. Now, yes, I know I have here Krusty's Super Funhouse, but let's be real. It's actually the same exact game as the NES version. I think the NES version is the most well-known version, but I decided to do the Super Nintendo version because, you know, newer graphics. Is the first Super Nintendo Simpsons game, so I thought, why not? And I went into this cautiously optimistic because I heard that this was one of the few acclaimed Simpsons games, if not the only one, that didn't suck before even trying it out for the video. And you know what? I can gladly say that this is a step in the right direction. It's not groundbreaking, it's not phenomenal or anything, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. So the story of this game is that Krusty's funhouse has been infested with mice, and Krusty needs to get rid of them with the help of the Simpsons. It's very odd that they're in this. I guess, like, it wasn't gonna sell if it was just Krusty the Clown. So, yeah, so this is actually a puzzle game. And, you know what? It works. It works. It's not great, but it works. You have Dan Castellaneta, his last name is so hard to pronounce, as is Krusty in this. He's like the only voice in the game. That's the thing with these like old Super Nintendo games. Voice acting was starting to come in, but it was only like 1 or 2 characters. Like how Rocco's Modern Life had only Carlos Alazraqui, who actually is celebrating his birthday at the time of this video's making. Crazy. Huh. But, yeah, they had him, but no, like, Tom Kenny or anything like that. But, yeah. The Simpsons games at least had, like, 1 or 2. Typically, Nancy Cartwright and Dan Castellaneta. But on the subject of Rocco's Modern Life, Spunky's Dangerous Day, I will say that, that game had a few more things that I think this game should have honestly had. If you pause the game on Rocco, you can, view a map, because that game's also, like, a puzzle platforming escort game. Okay, it's a bit confusing, but bottom line, I had some features that I wish this game had, like a map sort of thing. If you play on hard mode, then the map is entirely useless, honestly, but easy mode, like, you can actually scroll around and, like, look at everything in advance. Honestly wish this game had that, but regardless, it's still good. Once again, I made it to World 2 here. I should definitely come back to this one. If anything, I feel like basing these games off of an hour playthrough is probably a bad idea, because I'm probably not getting the full experience, and there's probably something that I'm completely ignoring that's probably bad. But, again, these Simpson games, people don't really care about them because they all suck, so I put this one in okay. I think it's funny how the one game that's not about Bart is, like, high so far. Oh, boy, but unfortunately, no, apparently Acclaim wasn't about to have this shit, so we went back with Bart. Like, seriously, like, this is Bart versus the Juggernauts, and we're back with Game Boy, and I kid you not, it's worse than Bart and Camp Deadly, whatever the hell that was called. Now, one thing that's important about any game is that you need to tell people how to play the game. Like, at least, like, especially with these Game Boy games, most people just threw out the box and the instructions and all that, just kept the cartridge. And, we were all in that phase. Let's be real here. When we bought these Game Boy games or these Super Nintendo games, we all threw out the boxes. We never kept the manuals. I mean, if you did, then you were smart, I suppose. But most of us just had the cartridge, and that was all. Most of us didn't bother with the boxes and all that, and not even the manuals. And I don't know if the manual helps with this game, because I've never seen it. But damn, the game doesn't tell you otherwise. I don't even know what the story of this game is. Honestly, it wasn't even that specific. I got stuck on the first batch of games here. The first game I figured out on my own, but even then it wasn't fun. It was like an electric floor kind of game. And then the second game was a skateboard jump game. I could not do the jump. It would not let me jump off the ramp. I always just fell off it. I don't have much to say about this except for the fact that it's just almost unplayable. I honestly hated this one. I don't even know who the Juggernauts are. I don't know. Were they something from the show? I'm not too sure. I never got to see them in this game. Unless they were the ones that I saw in the electric floor game. I don't know. Basically, this could have had anybody other than Bart Simpson on it, honestly. Oh boy. But you know, how do we rub more salt into the Bart Simpson wound? I tell you, with another Bart Simpson game. This is probably one of the more infamous ones. Bart's Nightmare on Super Nintendo. Oh boy. Now the NES games were bad, and would you believe that Bart's Nightmare is much worse than both of those combined? Okay, so this game, Bart's in the middle of like homework. I guess there's a test on the way, and he has to get it. Yeah, he doesn't want to fail. It's like Bart gets an F, I suppose. He falls asleep, much like the episode, I suppose, except he he has a nightmare where he loses the pages in this, like, nightmarish Springfield. And he needs to get the pages back. Although, when he finds the pages, he doesn't get the page, because he has to beat a minigame to obtain it. These minigames are, oh my god, they are unworldly brutal. I get The Simpsons is an adult show, but just because these games are for adults, does that really mean they need to be overly difficult? Like, I could barely, like, I can only get like a quarter into them before I die. Maybe not even. So, like, I didn't get to see all the games in here, but I'm aware of what some of them are. Like, you have, like, a Godzilla level that I didn't get to play. You have an Indiana Jones level where the background attacks you. Yeah, it's one of those games where you're not safe, no matter what you think. An Itchy and Scratchy game, which I thought would be fun. But, no, of course not. Really, it's not. A Bartman game where everything's out to kill you. I didn't get to play that one either. And the reason you're wondering why I wasn't able to play a lot of these games, it was because the game doesn't let you choose what level you want to play. And it's not in, like, any order either. It's all random. So you could get stuck with the same level twice. And I don't know. Like, seriously, I don't know what the hell they were thinking when making this freaking game. And, this is also when I kind of get to a point that I want to make. A lot of the Bart Simpson games, most of the enemies are just regular Simpson characters. It's like that crappy mobile sequel to the Simpsons arcade game. Oh, by the way, I'm not counting mobile games, because there's like only 4 of them. I think only one of them is available to download, because the rest are delisted, and 2 of them I never even played. But yeah. I guess it's like, you know, if it's not Bart, but Bart Simpson's the only good character in this world of evil, blah, blah, blah. So it's not like only Homer trying to kill you. It's like Marge is trying to kill you, Lisa's trying to kill you. I don't know, Hans Moleman, for all I know, would try to kill you. I don't know. I haven't played these games long enough to see if he was even in these. Basically, everybody was out to kill you. And, like, you know, it was like basically... Yeah, it's like, honestly, you know, maybe, who knows? Maybe they were on a quest to kill Bart so they could stop all these shitty games from being made. If that was the case, I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. But yeah. Okay, so where is this one going? I've complained a lot here, so where is this gonna go? Honestly, I guess at the top of no, honestly. These ones, I mean, I don't know. The Game Boy games, I mean, they're a little, I mean, like, they're Game Boy games, I suppose. I know this was during the time that, like, you know, people didn't really give a crap about developing the games, or, like, the development was really, like, people were like, who cares, because it's portable, they're gonna buy it for the novelty, blah, blah, blah. Things were different, blah, whatever. I said blah too many times. Let's move on. We have the last Simpsons game on NES. It's weird, it's like a... What the heck was this? Like, I don't know, but basically I went from Super Nintendo to NES. Okay. Bartman meets Radioactive Man. So the story of this one is that Bart is reading a Radioactive Man comic, and he's towards the end, and he's like, where the heck is Radioactive Man? It's like some baby game kind of plot, honestly. Oh boy, any adult who bought this game back in the day expected an epic plot. I'm so sorry for you. I feel so bad. But yeah, Radioactive Man's not in the comic. Then, Fallout Boy comes out, and he's like, Radioactive Man has been kidnapped. I need your help, Bartman. And, yeah, Bartman gets... God, I'm just going with it at this point. He gets sucked into the comics. These like, Bart Simpson games, like, completely obliterated the NES library, honestly. I feel like the best, probably worse, but still, like, and, you know, I just remember there was this award ad, for, like, best games on NES and Super Nintendo, and Bart won all of the awards? Where the hell was Mario and Sonic when you needed them? Like, I know that there's Desperate, and then there's, like, Stooping to a Low Level. Okay, that's pretty much the same. There's, like, I'm not, you know what, forget. Basically, this one, truth be told, it still sucks monkey shit. Actually, that's another game we're gonna get to. But, it's still, honestly, if you ask me, it's more playable than the other NES Bart Simpson games. It's still bad, and this one, I I think my problem here was that uncertain checkpoints. And it's just kind of boring, honestly. And it's hard to explain a boring game, honestly, really. It just is. I got to a sewer level. I got pretty far in that, but there was no checkpoints. And it's weird because the sub area before that, or the level before it, had checkpoints. They weren't specified, but like whatever. Basically, out of all of the NES ones, this is the one that has the privilege of being the least shit. Although that's not saying much, honestly. Moving on back to Game Boy, we have Bart and the Beanstalk. Now, let's just stop and take a moment to take this in. This is Jack and the Beanstalk, but with the Simpsons. Who thought that was a combination that needed to happen? I've seen worse combinations, or like more questionable combinations with other things and other shows, but still, this is like that. This raises a lot of questions. So one of my big gripes here, you'll notice Homer is the giant. This is definitely still during the Bart Simpson era, where Homer was deemed as an evil character. Homer's up to no good, blah blah blah. Here's the thing, though. This was 1994, and this was pretty much when Homer was proven to be the big breakout star, when his angry personality was kind of like, you know, drowned out a bit for his dumb personality or his ignorant personality, which was pretty much ignored in advertising. Basically, yeah, at this point, I'd say that Bart was overshadowed by Homer, but they still insisted that Homer be deemed as the evil character here. Basically, oh my god, I don't know. This was developed by Software Creations, who I've mentioned before. They were developers of Nicktoons Racing, and they developed a lot of the Game Boy Rugrats games, which is kind of ironic because Klasky Csupo were the original animators of The Simpsons, although that's something that the staff of The Simpsons like to forget about. This game was released not around that time. This was when Film Roman, who were the animators for Garfield at the time, were animating the show. I forgot when they stopped, but still, it's just a fun fact that nobody wants to remember for some reason. This one suffers from no checkpoints. It's more playable than these other ones, but still, I couldn't make it past the first level. Because I got pretty far. I didn't get a game over or anything, but I got pretty far up the level because climbing the beanstalk up. Ha ha ha. Also, Homer was the father in this. I don't know why they didn't just choose Marge to be the mother. I have no idea. Unless she is in it as like... Unless it's like one of those Jack and the Beanstalk stories that adapt like the Golden Harp or something. I don't know. Yeah. Bottom line. This one, it's still god-awful. I'm sorry, the whole no checkpoint thing in a long level, that rubs me the wrong way. Honestly, it's probably the least suckish of the Game Boy games thus far, but it's still a no, honestly. So, moving on. We are here with the very last Bart Simpson game. We are almost out of the Bart Simpson terrorist attacks, blah, blah, blah. That was a bad joke. I'm so sorry about that. This is Virtual Bart. This is, unfortunately, a sequel to Bart's Nightmare, and it shares some of the same problems. For one thing, you can't choose the level, so the game choosing the same level twice is prone to happen. I think that actually did happen with me. I actually reset the game because I didn't want to do that. And, again, overabundance, overly difficult. Controls are flat out ridiculous, and sometimes the game's just not clear. I did get to play more levels this time. Plus, Bart's Nightmare had like a very tedious and annoying hub world. It took forever to get into a level. But this one, it just has like a random level select. So I guess that's a little bit better, but still. Story of this one is that it's this Springfield Elementary School science fair, and Bart tries out a virtual reality project or something. It's not ideal. It isn't really ideal at all. Seriously. There are many games I only played a few of them, though. There was a dinosaur level, which I did get pretty far in, until Krusty and Marge showed up. Those were, too many enemies have projectiles. Like, you have a cave person, like cave people versions of the characters. Cave people, what is it, Super Mario World show? Okay, like, a lot of the characters have projectiles. Mainly, Maggie, Lisa, and Marge. As soon as all three of them, and when you get, there's a certain part of the level where, like, all three of them are there, and, like, it's not gonna happen. I'm sorry, it's just... I know there are people who can beat these games, and to them, I say, I don't know how much therapy you need to get in order to, you know, I don't know. Basically, it can be done, but I don't have the patience. I did a baby Bart level, like, what the hell? Okay, that's kind of odd. It's very odd. It's very odd. It involves swinging and such. It was a very odd sort of thing. Couldn't make it past the first screen, honestly. And then you had, like, a picture day thing where you had to ruin people's outfits. Yeah, I almost beat that one. Except they started throwing more and more stuff, and it got more precise. And sometimes the, like, time was ticking down real fast, and the characters would move too slow. Basically, it was not, and you couldn't aim correctly either. You could only go straight. And, like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Some of the other levels, I think it was a motorcycle level in, like, an apocalypse sort of level, I don't know. Control-wise, it was like Crash and Burn or something. What was that one game, the motorcycle game where you have, yeah, what was that one motorcycle game where you, like, yeah, you hit people with stuff? I forgot that. I think it was Crash and Burn. I'm not sure. I could be entirely wrong. Was it Road Rash? I'm not sure. One of those. If someone wants to verify, let me know. It was, in my opinion, I didn't have a good time with that one. I really didn't. And then I think there was also a pig level. We're in, like, a Krusty corn dog factory or something. Or a Krusty ham factory. Yeah, once again, Krusty's being deemed as the face of evil here. Then again, I mean, like, a Krusty burger. Then again. So, I was like, no, that one, I passed that one. That one's a pass, honestly. And then, a water slide level, which, you know, I didn't get to do that one either. And honestly, I've heard really bad things about that. So, this one is bad, but honestly, I did progress more in the dinosaur level than any of the levels in Bart's Nightmare, so... And it does remove that annoying hub world, so I guess I'll put it in the back of bad, but I don't know, it scrapes really close to being no. And with that, we are done with the Bart Simpson games. And that felt like an eternity, honestly, but no, there we are. We got all the Bart Simpson games there. Look at this list. Like, we only have one up high, and then the rest are pretty damn low. Oh, boy. But we're not done with Acclaim, sadly. So, I guess at this point they realized that Bart was not doing well. Bart was not their ticket to success here. So what did they do? They did Itchy and Scratchy. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you probably didn't know this. Some of you probably didn't know this. For all I know, I'm probably wrong on that. And I guess some of you who've played one of the later games we're going to talk about probably didn't know that Itchy and Scratchy had an actual game. This is Itchy and Scratchy Miniature Golf Madness, or Mini Golf Madness, I'm just going to call it because it's a lot simpler. This is actually a platforming mini golf game, and I'm not going to lie, I do like the concept. I do like the concept, but there are some problems. One, the game is pretty precise. Obviously, you gotta try and, if you know mini golf, you gotta get the ball into the hole within the number of pars, or within the number of strokes, or whatever you call them. Under par, you get the idea. You don't want to get like a bogey or anything like that. I was like not even close to the end, and I was close to the max. So yeah, I feel like it's like strategy based, so I feel like it can be done, but I don't know. And then Itchy. By the way, you're playing as Scratchy in this one, which I suppose is nice, because, you know, this was during the time where Itchy and Scratchy went from being a Tom and Jerry ripoff to an innocent bystander getting tormented by a murdering psychopath. So I guess it's nice that Scratchy got some respect here and become playable. Itchy is like the primary enemy here. He randomly appears in the stage and tries to attack you. He serves no purpose, but he does get in the way. And by no purpose, I mean, like, he doesn't take away health or anything. You can get objects to kill him, although it's easier said than done. It's one of those games where you don't attack right away when you press the button, so the counterattacks can happen. The projectile attacks, like a frisbee, those work wonders, honestly, but still. I get the concept, but I'm not sure if it really works. So, you know what, honestly, I'll give, because I like the concept, I guess I'll give it a pass. It's better than like the Bart Simpson Super Nintendo games, but, you know, it's still really bad. And then finally, we come to the last Acclaim Simpsons game, and we're back with Itchy and Scratchy. This is the Itchy and Scratchy game. Now, honestly, truth be told, I actually went into these Itchy and Scratchy games with very little expectations, because you're taking, like, side characters on the show and you're giving them their own games. Like, okay, that doesn't sound like a good idea at all. But, you know what? I'm probably going to be wrong on this. There's probably a cult hatred for this game that I'm unaware of. But honestly, truth be told, I actually had a good time with Itchy and Scratchy the game. Or the Itchy and Scratchy game, as it's called. This game, you don't have to think, you don't have to overthink anything, you don't have to wonder, is this safe, is that not going to work? Oh, there's just one goal in this game, and it's to kill the ever-living hell out of Scratchy. That is what I'd expect from an Itchy and Scratchy game, and honestly, it works. It honestly works. There are some weird oddities, like, you know, Scratchy comes out of nowhere most of the time, and he seems to get abilities or power-ups more than you can, but it's way more playable and honestly way more fun than a lot of these other Acclaim games. Almost all of them. And, yeah, boss battles. How it works is that the game is pretty much every level is the same, except structure-wise. You gotta kill Scratchy before he kills you. You're playing as Itchy, by the way. Obviously, because who else would there be? And the goal is, obviously, after you beat them, you get a boss. They're mostly the same, to my knowledge, from what I've played. I bet it's like the World 3 here, but I'll definitely continue. Plus, the problem here is that most of these games don't have passwords. I think this one doesn't as well, which is really stupid, honestly. But, you know, honestly, I can't deny, compared to what we've seen thus far, gameplay-wise, this one is more solid, honestly. Still not good by any means, and not groundbreaking, but honestly, I wouldn't mind coming back to this one, honestly. So, you know what? I'm putting it above Krusty's Funhouse, because honestly, I think that was well done. And about the bosses, I forgot to say, they're not too difficult, but it comes down to the matter of how you need to attack them. Like, you have to charge your attack and stuff. Like, you know, sometimes some of the stuff isn't obvious, but, you know, I still think it's much more playable than all of these other games that we have tried out, honestly. These two non-Bart Simpson games are the saving grace of the Acclaim Simpson games, but even then, that's not saying much. So, moving on, we are now out of the Acclaim era, and we've entered the late 90s. And this is when publishing for Simpsons games was just kind of in, like, a weird state. Like, anybody could do anything. So, PC games started happening. And as you know, if you've seen my Nicktoons crossover game video, or my Nickelodeon crossover games video, you know I like to include kids software as games, because why the hell not? This is the Simpsons Cartoon Studio. Now, I liked 3D Movie Maker. I liked Nickelodeon 3D Movie Maker. Hell, I had some times with Nickelodeon Toon Twister 3D. And I heard about this one, and I was like, hey, I'll try it out. This one has a lot of fans. I know that this is a very beloved software. But, yeah, I'm sorry, guys. This one is... it's not really that good. I used to have this game complete in box, but I lost everything. The manual I do remember. From my recollection, the manual did not really do a good job explaining everything. Compared to, like, 3D Movie Maker and Nickelodeon 3D Movie Maker. Hell, Toon Twister 3D had a whole webpage, which I think is still up to this day. I'm not sure on that. Don't quote me on that. At least they told you everything you would need to know, or at least most of the big basics to make you, like, you know, these kind of programs take, you know, practice and all that, and time to get good at them. But this one, I've been trying this for years, and I've never been good. It's I think also, like, it's one of those games where if you have, like, a laser mouse, it doesn't, like a sensor mouse, it doesn't work too well. But if you have, like, a tracker ball mouse, it works fine. I don't know. Basically, it's very sloppy in my opinion. And if you're going to complain that this is an early movie-making software, you can't knock it for that reason. Well, here's the thing. 3D Movie Maker and Nickelodeon 3D Movie Maker were already out when this came out. Those games were already out, and those are much more usable than this, honestly. I mean, the bare minimal that I was able to do was this. That should pretty much speak for itself. I mean, aside from that, I can't really make characters move. The only thing that this program is good for, honestly, for my use, is like making Marge yell at a wall for no freaking reason. I don't know. But basically, I couldn't really do much with this software. I know that there's a lot of people who can really do some stuff with this. I've seen people who can really use this, but I don't know. It's just it's like one of the more complicated ones. So if you could wrap your head around it, I suppose that, like, you know, it could go up, but honestly, it's like, you know, I feel like the best movie-making softwares are the ones that are easier to understand, but I guess, you know, these do take practice. I mean, I know that the other ones I mentioned, most certainly, like, those took me some time, but, you know, considerably less time than this. But basically, I guess you could do worse than this, but, like, you know, there were much better options at the time. Moving right along, about a year later on PC, we have the Simpsons Virtual Springfield. Despite virtual, this is kind of like a Virtual Boy scenario where it doesn't really have anything to do with virtual reality. Although I'd argue that this is better than a Virtual Boy because, one, color, and two, it does kind of put you into a first-person perspective. Even though it's not VR, but you get the idea. Yeah. This one has one premise only. No story here. It just lets you explore Springfield, which I think is honestly probably every Simpsons fan's dream. And not a lot of these games let you do that. So, I'll admit that I'll give this credit where credit is due. It's a point-and-click game, by the way. It has a lot of, like, humongous entertainment stuff, which is weird for a Simpsons game. It wasn't developed by them, obviously. They wouldn't develop something like this. I think they were developing, like, Blue's Clues games at the time. Actually, no, I think that was a year later. You get the idea. Basically, yeah, a lot of references to the show. I think that's one thing that a lot of these Simpson games were lacking in, references. This one had some references to the first season because it was being developed alongside it. And, I guess some of these other games had small ones, but not on an extreme level like this. I think Bart versus the World had a trivia quiz or something. So, that's one thing, but whatever. This one, but yeah, you go to all the places you'd want to, like the Simpsons house, the Flanders house, the Quickie Mart, the school, like all those. I mean, not every location is there, obviously, but still, all of the ones that matter, I'd say, are fairly represented. And then, like, you know, there's a lot of cool things that happen, like, if you go into a room, like, different times, then, like, you know, you go into a room, something happens, you exit it, and then go back in, something else happens. That's pretty cool. There is a part in the game where you can walk in on Marge and Homer having private time. What, where you thought I was going to say sex? No, come on, this is clean, family-friendly content. Go f*** yourself if you thought that. I'm just kidding. Obviously, this is not family-friendly. This is like a general audience heading towards T rating. No, why am I saying that? This has a T rating. That's some hilarious shit. Basically, yeah, this is honestly a step up. It's still nothing groundbreaking, but I think the novelty of being able to explore Springfield definitely puts it above almost all of these other games. So I put it at the top of okay, honestly. And thus, we have entered the new millennium, the 2000s. And hopefully, thankfully, The Simpsons did not break it this time, if you saw that one episode. We have the Simpsons Bowling. Konami is back. This is their second and much lesser-known arcade video game. And, you know what? Honestly, it wasn't half bad. It was not half bad at all. I mean, it's bowling. That's all you really need to know. You got a selection of, I think, like, 8 or 9 characters. I think the ninth character is a secret character, which is Grandpa. To play a sim, you gotta quickly push down and then quickly push up on the tracker ball. You gotta wait a second in between, of course, to play as him. He's probably the most powerful character. That's probably why he's hidden. But yeah, Simpsons Bowling, honestly, I've only seen this in an arcade once, and I've only played it once. I should have played it more when I saw it, but regardless, I do have the fair impression of playing it. And I actually have the Simpsons Arcade 1-Up cabinet, which includes bowling as a bonus. And as of right now, it's the only home release of the game, which is pretty stupid. Give this a console game, too. This is the first ever 3D Simpsons game, or the first one to have 3D graphics. This one had 3D rendered graphics, but it wasn't like completely like 3D models and such. So, this one has that first privilege. This is also when we finally get to Simpsons games that have all of the voices you would expect. Not just Nancy Cartwright and Dan Castellaneta. Like, they also have, like Tress MacNeille and Julie Kavner. They're starting to get all them now. So, this is definitely like, you know, we're entering that era now. So, hopefully things will pick up. But, alas, there are a couple of more turds that we got to address down the line. But this one is honestly a step in the right direction. It's just bowling, which is crazy. All these other ones were like platforms and adventures and such, but, you know, it's weird that a bowling game kind of overtakes all that. So, I'm putting that in good. It's a rare arcade game to come across, but if you ever see it, I highly recommend playing it. And if you live near an arcade that has one, then you are lucky. I'm just going to say that. But then, moving right along, so Konami made another Simpsons game. What other publishers were tackling The Simpsons around this time? Well, believe it or not, THQ was also dipping their feet into Simpsons games. This is from 2001, around the time that they were preparing SpongeBob games and all that. This was also developed by Software Creations, and it shows. Because, you know, it shares a lot of similarities to the Rugrats movie game and all that. It even has the same HUD. It does not have the item situation that those games had. It has a health bar, although, truth be told, it's still not that good, honestly. It's clear what you're supposed to do at times, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with this game from the Lonely Goomba video, but, yeah, honestly, I feel like THQ should have waited until the Game Boy Advance to launch, honestly, before making this game, or put this game on the Game Boy Advance. I mean, that's what they did with Rugrats that year, so, I don't know. I guess it's because Software Creations was developing Castle Capers. But, yeah, I will admit, it is better than most of the, actually, no, I think Time Travelers was a little bit better than this. I couldn't even progress past the first level. I think I've heard there's, like, levels where you're, like, Maggie as a fly, for some reason. And then you're, like, there's a shooting level with Marge. There's not much to this one, honestly. It's, by the way, no. Have I even mentioned the name of the game? Oh my god, I'm tripping. This is, The Simpsons Night of the Living Treehouse of Horror. And that's actually something very interesting. They've been doing this annual Treehouse of Horror thing for, like, I think since the beginning of the show. And, I think they just announced a teaser for the first, for the Treehouse of Horror special for this year. It's been an annual thing, like the annual Halloween special of The Simpsons. And, yeah, it's kind of weird that there was never a game for that, but yeah, here we go. THQ came along and said, here you go, here's your Simpsons Treehouse of Horror game. And, yeah, it didn't do too well, honestly, so, where is this one gonna go? I guess I'll put it above the NES games. It's more playable than those, and it looks a lot nicer too, because, you know, even though it's an 8-bit console, it's, you know, it still looks a lot nicer. So, yeah, but if this one was a, not too good, can we do better? No, we can't. This is no secret, fellas, you know. This is a game that's infamously known for being reviewed or being, like, deemed by critics as a game that sucks monkey shit. You think I was joking with that? No, I've seen reviewers who call it that. This is The Simpsons Wrestling. This was published by Activision in the US and Electronic Arts, also EA in other words, in the UK, or Europe, I should say. Yeah, so this sounds like a premise that would be, like, badass. A wrestling game with the Simpsons. That sounded absolutely awesome. But, unfortunately, it was anything but, honestly. Graphically, it's probably one of the ugliest games on PlayStation. I personally think Search for Reptar looks better than this. Totally Angelica looks better than this. And that came out the same year! Oh my god. If a girl game could look better than an adult wrestling game, then Jesus Christ, you've really screwed up. The fighting gimmicks are really, like, the AI is too brutal. Again, I get adult game, but does it have to be overly difficult? Some of the characters just seem more overpowered than others, like Bumblebee Man and Frink and all them. But oh no, guess who's the most infamous part of this game? Do you know who the most overpowered character is? If I was to tell you, let me put this down. If I was to tell you any Simpsons character, if you could think of any Simpsons character that would be the most overpowered in a Simpsons fighting game, who would you think? Who would you guess? Did you say Ned Flanders? Because that's what they did. I'm willing to bet that was done as a joke for shits and giggles. And oh my god, that was such a stupid move. He can kill you with lightning. That's really overpowered. And then if you do manage to kill him, you gotta kill him again. You gotta defeat him again. So you gotta kill him twice. There are boss characters in this game, but he's not one of them, which is so weird. He feels like a boss character, but he's not. So, like, seriously, I don't know what the deal is. As for the boss characters, actually, there is a story to this game, but it's not explained in the game itself. And that led a lot of people, you know, to be confused when the game came out, because they're like, why are we allowing, like, Lisa and Bart to fight? Like, okay, we're gonna have Marge cave in, like, Lisa's head with a frying pan. You know, that makes a lot of sense now, doesn't it? No. Truth be told, there is a story. It's only in the game's manual. And the story is, Kang and Kodos, the aliens from the show, mainly the Treehouse of Horror specials, they have diseased the world with the need to, beat the shit out of each other. I forgot what the actual disease is called. And apparently, everybody is affected by this, except for one person, and that is the character of your choice. So you need to go on a quest to beat everybody up, and make your way to Kang and Kodos and stop their little whatever, whatchamacallit. You don't even fight Kang, you only fight Kodos. And that's enough to, you know, Kang and Kodos are obviously one of the boss characters. And Burns and Smithers are as well. Except you don't fight Mr. Burns, you fight Smithers, but the game insists that it's Mr. Burns. It's confusing. It's very confusing. Some characters are more overpowered as well, like, I think Lisa also has, like, a saxophone ability that's really stupid, and a biting ability? Okay, sure. There are some funny lines in this game, but, alas, I mean, you're better off just downloading those off the internet and listening to those rather than buying this game. Some lines of dialogue in this were reused for other Simpson games, but, let's pretend this one didn't happen. Honestly, I'd go to as far as saying that this was worse than all of the Acclaim games, honestly. That is crazy. Honestly, how do you do that? So, yeah, this is deemed as the worst of the worst, believe it or not. I don't know if I did it justice, but, there you go. Oh boy, let's not talk about that ever again. Now, as I said before, EA were the European publishers of this game, but they didn't do it in the US. But alas, their first US Simpsons game that they would publish would be The Simpsons Road Rage. This is, if you could believe it, a crazy taxi clone. It was so much of a clone, in fact, that Sega actually sued them, and they had to take the game off the shelves. It's crazy, actually. The story of this game is that Mr. Burns has bought the Springfield Transit System, or the buses, and he's deciding to make them all nuclear-powered. And in his words, they're faster, cheaper, and completely safe. Except, well, they're faster, sure. Maybe they're cheaper, I'm not too sure. But they are most certainly not safe. They are not safe at all. This game is actually best known for, the line from Marge. You know the one.
Please kill me. That poor man. I hope someone does kill him.
Yeah, but basically the citizens of Springfield are not about to have that, so they start a taxi service, and they go on a quest to raise $1 million to buy the buses back. Yeah, this is a step up, honestly. A huge step up, in fact. You know what? It goes at the top of good. I can't put it in great, but I definitely think it's a lot better than all these other games. There are people who still think this is a bad game, but, I mean, they have reason to think that. For one thing, the whole $1 million story, they're serious on that. In order to beat the game, you actually do have to raise $1 million. It can be done, but it most certainly should not be done in one sitting. It has a lot of locations. I think this is the one game that really emphasized on exploring Springfield, more than Virtual Springfield. A lot of locations that serve as references. I really like that. A lot of the characters. A lot of great dialogue in this game, honestly. And it's a really addicting game. It's not like realistic like Crazy Taxi. It's more of like a more fluid kind of obviously cartoonish driving game than it is a realistic driving game. And I honestly think it works, but the taxi scenario kind of works a lot better there. I mean, Crazy Taxi is a good game, but like, honestly, I kind of prefer Road Rage, honestly. But yeah, this is pretty, honestly, I really like it. There's a mission mode. I really like that. The head-to-head mode was pretty intense in this game. But yeah, and then Sunday Drive, you can just explore the levels, which I really like. I've spent countless hours doing that. I have heavy nostalgia for this one, if you couldn't tell. It's definitely a step up. This was developed by Radical Entertainment. They would be better known for another game that you don't worry, we're gonna get to that one. So, yeah, Simpsons Road Rage, it does have problems, though. For one thing, it can get really tedious. Again. Some people have really gone on, really big rants about, some inaccuracies, mainly with the Simpsons house being red. I have no idea what that was about, but honestly, I think that's a bit nitpicking, honestly. I mean, okay, the red house thing isn't, but, everything else, I still think this is a really good game, honestly. A really good game at that. So, you know what, EA is as hard as this is gonna be for me to say, they definitely proved some better stuff with this game. So maybe there's a brighter future. Maybe there's a brighter future, honestly. That wouldn't be the case. That really would not be the case, because what came of that was The Simpsons skateboarding. Oh, dear God. Now, for those who are familiar with my channel, you know that I personally really hate the Nickelodeon show Rocket Power. Just because of its characters were so bad. And it's kind of it's one of the things that killed extreme sports for me. I was never big on extreme sports, obviously, but I was never against it either. That show, that show was one of the things that made me think, okay, yeah, there is a reason to be against it. But alas, before my hatred for that show kicked in, this game was filling that spot. This was the game that made me hate extreme sports. Before that show, before my hatred for that show happened. Oh my God. And no, it's not because of the controls. The controls have nothing to do with this. It's what the game expects you to do. Oh, dear God. Actually, no, there might be some truth in the controls, but that's only in Skill School, honestly, if you ask me. But the main missions, the main story mode, it expects you to do some stuff that's just borderline impossible. I know Tony Hawk games and, even, Disney's Extreme Skating Adventure or whatever that was called. I know that had, some missions, but those were way more playable than this. I don't have words for this one. I really don't. I've wasted so much of my life with this one. And, it's one of those games where it just mocks you the whole way through. Characters are programmed where if you pass by them or if you screw up near them, they say you suck, or you just quit your life or kill yourself or something like that. And, it's like Rugrats Studio Tour in that regard, where it's like, why? Why are you doing this to me? I'm already having a hard time. Why do you need to rub it in? It's like they knew what they were doing. The game was developed by the Code Monkeys, who have probably the worst track record in the history of game developers. I don't know if there's anyone worse, but to me, they're like the worst of the worst. I don't know what to say about this one. I can't really say anything good about it, because Jesus Christ. In fact, you know what? I'd say it's worse than The Simpsons Wrestling. This is deemed as the worst of the worst, but honestly, at least this had some funny dialogue, including one line. There is one line from Moe that is keeping this game over Simpsons skateboarding, and it's this line right here.
Ah, little Lisa Simpson. Ain't she cute? Where's my gun?
I'm sorry. I know that is screwed up, but I'm sorry. It is funny, and if it wasn't for that one line, this probably would have been under this. But this is also personal. I have a huge personal gripe with this game. So it has to be a no. I mean, it was going to go a no to begin with, honestly. But it's not for the reasons that everybody else says. Because I feel like people meme up the controls. If you can grasp those controls, it's more than just that. Go screw yourself, okay? If you think it's just the controls. No, I'm just kidding. No, but still. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. But we're almost to the end. THQ came back. And, you know, truth be told, I wasn't going to count this game because it's technically a port. But considering that some of the sources that I've read for these games, or like the lists that I've read of Simpsons games, count this as its own game. And because it was the only Simpsons game on Game Boy Advance, I thought, why not? This is the Game Boy Advance version of The Simpsons Road Rage. It's about the same, except it's on a Game Boy. It has like the Mode 7 thing, except with slopes this time. That's kind of cool. I don't know if Mode 7's the right term, honestly. Probably not. It's good. It's, I wouldn't say it's as good as the console version, but it's definitely pretty cool. There's a new mode that's pretty cool in this, performance mode, where you gotta do tricks and hit stuff to get money, and then once you get once you satisfy a customer enough, you gotta get another one. It's pretty interesting, actually. But yeah, I don't really have much to say about this one because it's pretty much the same game. Oh, a handful of the characters are removed, which is pretty sad. And you can't choose your characters, the characters you unlock, unlike the console version, which is pretty stupid. And there are some different missions in there, but yeah. Oh, and it's E-rated too. That's kind of weird. Then again, like the other ones were kind of too, or like Treehouse of Horror and Cartoon Studio were also like K&A and E as well. So whatever. But yeah, Simpsons Road Rage on Game Boy. Where's this one gonna go? I guess I'll put it at the back of good. Honestly, I still think it's a good game, but it does have some downgrades. But that's gonna happen, I suppose. But this is still like a decent little game for Game Boy Advance and portability and such. So yeah. But now it's time for the moment that I think all of you have been waiting for. The big boy. The Simpsons Hit and Run. Oh, yes. Yes. Now, this was the one. This is the Simpsons game to many people. And I could not agree more. After a huge thing of downs and ups and ups and downs, this was the one that, you know, we finally got the Simpsons game that we have been waiting for. The story of this game revolves around Kang and Kodos making a Buzz Cola that can apparently make people do very strange things, and it is for their television show that they have. I'm sure I'm spoiling this stuff, but this game came out in 2003, honestly, so yeah, there's a lot of people begging for a remake, and I would love to see a remake of this game, but I think there are some issues that probably are halting them from doing that, like publisher issues, and Apu has like a major presence in this game, and as you know, he got canceled, so that's kind of sad. So I feel like, I don't know if that's stopping them, but alas, regardless, I would love to see a remake at some point. But I don't know if that, at this point, even just a port, an up-res port, I would settle for God's sake. But yeah, Simpsons Hit and Run. You got multiple playable characters again. It's by Radical Entertainment. It was kind of made off of the building blocks of Road Rage. You have a little bit more realistic driving, but not too realistic. It's still a blast to play. Missions, you got a lot of missions, and one thing I personally like, some of the missions do get hard, and there are no checkpoints in the missions. But if you do fail a mission enough, less experienced players can skip the mission and come back and play it later when they get like a better car. I absolutely love that, honestly. I really welcome that, and I'm really... Road Rage kind of did that as well for the mission mode, so... I guess they kind of saw, like, okay, there's gonna be some kids who are gonna sneak this game, so why the hell not? We'll be generous for them. And I really welcome that. I really do. Yeah, there are some tough missions, but, the game is still... The game never overstays its welcome. It's still a very fun game. And, it's a very challenging game, honestly. This is like one of my all-time favorite games right here. It's not my favorite game, but it's definitely like really high on the list. And this has the title of one of the best licensed games ever made. And unlike Battle for Bikini Bottom, its reputation has not been tainted by horrible remakes. And I guess that's another reason why I'm not too sure if a remake would happen, considering how Rehydrated kind of did. But yeah, bottom line, it's The Simpsons hit and run. What else needs to be said? There are street races, you could buy cars, you could buy clothes. It's like, and you have like more and more references, you could talk to a lot of the characters. This is honestly the Simpsons game, honestly. And it also involves some writers from the show. So I think that kind of like, maybe they were like, we were done with these inferior Simpsons games. Let's get somebody on board. Let's make this one the best it could possibly be. And holy crap, they went above and beyond with The Simpsons hit and run. Honestly, I think it's better. Come on, there we go. Oh, there. It's better than The Simpsons arcade game. My heart goes out to The Simpsons hit and run. If you've never played it, I highly recommend playing it. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention with Road Rage, don't buy the PS2 version. Stick with GameCube or Xbox, because the game is infamously known for its load times, although that's only in the PS2 version, and unfortunately, this game is a victim to, if you screw up the PS2 version, you screwed up the game entirely, so, yeah. But alas, we're moving on to our last game. Now, this was during the time where, again, these games that we've been talking about, they've been, different publishers. We've had THQ, we've had Konami, we had EA, Activision, Vivendi, Universal. And they were still planning stuff. Like, I think they were planning a Game Boy version of Hit and Run. That was probably going to be by THQ. And they were planning, like, I don't know, maybe other stuff was being planned as well. But, during that time, EA, who published Road Rage, skateboarding, and the European version of wrestling, they wanted all for The Simpsons licensing for video games. So in 2004, they pitched a demo to Matt Groening and Fox and all them to get the exclusive rights to The Simpsons video games. And they greenlit it, and that is what led to the final Simpsons game, the last one that we have. By the way, I'm not counting that pitch demo or the Simpsons Bug Squad, because, well, they were tech demos or pitch demos, and they weren't finished, or some of them weren't even meant to be games, honestly. So yeah. But alas, we come to the last Simpsons game, The Simpsons Game. Great title. Very simple title for The Simpsons.
How original.
I didn't say that. No, you didn't hear it from me. Okay. So, this game revolves around Bart finding out about them that they have video game powers. So they go on a mission to do stuff. But then Kang and Kodos decide to wreak havoc on the town. They bring back the dolphins, and they bring Lard Lad back to life. Basically, it's like turning the whole thing into Treehouse of Horror. And so the Simpsons decide to use their video game powers to save the world. But alas, though, it does not work out, so they enter the video game world, and they go on a mission to stop the madness of being a video game, because apparently they apparently hate being a video game, and so they go on a quest to go beat up Matt Groening. Yeah, Matt Groening's in this game, and it's a very weird game, honestly. Very weird. It's definitely a trip, honestly. Some critics called it like the first playable season of The Simpsons. And it most certainly feels like that, honestly. But, truth be told, will I say it's good? No, I just said it's good. Would I say it's a good thing that this was, like, the last game to come on? Or, no, how am I saying this? But, there is one red flag that I need to raise here, or I need to address with this game. It's, it was the last Simpsons game that we got. Sure, we got mobile games from EA, but this was the only major Simpsons game that they ever made. And this was 2007. That's like almost, I think like 14 years? How many years is that actually? 16! This game's almost 16 years old. And I feel like they were trying to make this the last one because, again, The Simpsons and their whole message about we don't like being a video game, stop milking us. And considering they got Matt Groening in there, I guess like they were trying to like, I guess he was sick of these video games. I don't know, like, if the Bart Simpson games, if they didn't happen, maybe that would have been different. I'm not sure. But it's honestly really sad because there are people who do want Simpson games, but at the same time, I haven't seen a lot of people. In fact, I've seen more people who want SpongeBob games. I mean, we SpongeBob games and Nickelodeon games, they're back. And heck, even then, I see more people making SpongeBob fan games than I do see people making Simpsons fan games. It's kind of weird, honestly. But, yeah, I guess the Simpsons games are just kind of dead at this point because EA's been sitting on it for so long. And again, they did a PS3 and Xbox 360 part of the arcade game. Konami did, but EA only allowed them to do it for a certain amount of time, then they had to delist it. So even when they didn't care, they didn't want people messing with it. Like, I don't get that, honestly. I just wish EA would either give up the licensing or if they would just, you know, let more people do stuff. I feel like The Simpsons could benefit for having no specific publisher, like SpongeBob or something. But then again, that could come with its own issues, I suppose. But regardless, and from what I gather, Disney doesn't have any control over that either. I think that's more Fox or something, or Matt Groening. I'm not too sure. But where is the Simpsons game gonna go? I think I'll put it here. It's better than the Game Boy Advance version of Road Rage, but I kind of like these ones more. And with that is my tier list for Simpsons games. This list is very, very messy. Extremely messy, actually. I mean, look at how many games are in No. This is like the first tier list I've made where No has the most things in it. This is sad, honestly. I would love to see Simpsons games get another shot, or have them get another shot at Simpsons games. But I guess judging by the message in the Simpsons game, it seems like they don't want to do that. It's kind of sad, actually, but what can you do, I suppose? But with all that said and done, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. I'll have a link to that down in the description below. And the next tier list, I actually have no idea. I'm going to try and get back into making gaming videos. So, yeah, because I know that a lot of people will probably watch me for my gaming videos. But if you enjoy these tier list videos, I greatly appreciate that. But with that said, not much else to say. So I'll be seeing y'all soon.